This is lesson 71, fractions, decimals, and percents. Fractions, decimals, and percents are three ways to name a part of a whole. As we see up here, it tells us 1/2 of the circle is shaded. This circle right here. We can also say that as 5/10 of the circle is shaded. That's the same as a half. Or as what we're used to, seeing it as a percent, it's 50%, which means the same as a half, which means the same as 5/10. Fractions, decimals, and percents have numerators and denominators. The denominator might not be obvious, but as we see here, half, the denominator of a fraction, can be any number other than 0 and is expressed as a fraction. However, over here, all we see is a 0, a dot, and a 5, which is written 5/10. And we are used to seeing 5/10 as a fraction. But in a decimal number, the denominator is indicated by the number of digits to the right of the decimal point. And we could see right here, to the right of the decimal point, there's only one digit. Therefore, it's 5/10. Now we have the percent, 50%. The denominator of a percent is always 100. It would be written 50 over 100, which means 50%. And it has a percent sign. So at the bottom here, again, we have 5/10 equals 5/10. See how it's a fraction? 50% equals 50 over 100. See, it's a fraction. Now, both 50 over 100 and 5/10 equal a half. Just like that circle right there. Right there. Okay, this example shows the fraction manipulative for 1/10, which is down here, 1/10, and it has the manipulative for the 10%, which is the same, and 1/10 printed on it. You have those in your desk. You should anyways. We can write a percent as a fraction by replacing the percent sign with a denominator of 100. So what we did here was we put the 10 on top, made it our numerator, and made the denominator 100 because it's a percent. A decimal number we write with one decimal place to the right, right here, which also is equal to 1/10. We also right here show the fraction manipulative for a half of a circle, which we saw on the previous slide. A half, 50%, and 5/10 is half. 1/4 of the circle is the same as 25%, or we could say it is 25/100. And again, you should have all the pieces, even the 1/3 and the 1/5 and the 1/8 in your desk, which have the fraction, the percent, and the decimal number. On these next problems, you could use your manipulatives to help figure out these questions. For example, on number 1, If you fit 3 1/10 pieces together, which is 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10, you have a what fraction of a circle? Well, you can add those together. You don't have to get your pieces out to know that 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 is going to equal 3/10. We would write that as a decimal part by making it 3/10. Now, is that greater than or less than 1/2? If you said that it's less than 1/2, you are correct, because 3/10 is less than 5/10. You can see that in the tenths place, the 5 is bigger than the 3. Number 2, if you fit 3 1/5 pieces together, 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5, you know that that's going to equal out to be 3/5. So that is the fraction. When it says what is the fraction, that is the fraction. Now, what decimal number does this make? Well, if you were to look at your manipulative pieces, you would see that 1/5 of a circle is 2/10. And so we'd have to have 2/10 plus 2/10 plus 2/10. Because remember, we added this 3 times, so we have to add 2/10 plus 2/10 plus 2/10 because we want to know 3/5 of a circle. That's going to equal out to be 6/10. Now, is 6/10 greater or less than 1/2? Remember, 1/2 is 5/10. So which one is greater? Well, 6/10 is. So it is greater than 1/2. Okay, if you fit 5 1/8 pieces together, you would get 5/8. Now, if you were to take away 1/4, what would you get? You see, 5/8 minus 1/4, we can't do that because they don't have the same denominators. So with this one, it'll be a lot easier to get your fraction pieces out, get the 8s out, get 5 of them, and then take away what equals 1/4. And you'll see that the fraction comes out to be 3/8. Again, you can't do it unless you have a common denominator. And since we haven't learned how to find the common denominators yet, it'd be easier using your pieces, your fractional pieces. So what decimal part of the circle do you have if you have 5/8 and take away 1/4? Well, again, if you were to get out your pieces, you can look at the decimal numbers. You can add them up because 1/8 of a circle is 125 thousandths. You want to add that up 5 times and then take away what would equal 1/4. And when you get that, you would get 375 hundredths of a decimal. Now, is that greater than or less than 1/2? Well, 1/2, again, we said is 5/10. And if I look at this 5/10 compared to the 375 hundredths, I can see that 5/10, which is 1/2, is larger because these are imaginary zeros here. And we could see that it's bigger. So it is 1/2 is greater. Okay, on the next ones, we're going to compare. And again, you can use your fraction manipulatives. It makes it easier. On number 4, 8/10 minus 4/10 is 4/10. And 4/10 is actually smaller than 5/10. On number 5, 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 2/8. And 2/8 is the same as 1/2. On number 6, 75 hundredths, is that going to be less than or greater than 25 hundredths plus 25 hundredths? And if you add 25 plus 25, you get 50, and you can tell that 75 hundredths is bigger. On number 8, 3/10 plus 2/10, that equals 5/10, and here it is being compared to 5/10, so it's equal. Oops, I skipped number 7. Let's go back to number 7. 70 hundredths minus 10 hundredths equals 60 hundredths. So that is going to be greater than 0.5. Now back to number 9. 10 over 10. Remember, that's the same as a whole. 1.0, that is the same as a whole. So they equal. 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4. And 2/4 is greater than 1/3. 1, is that less than or greater than 2/3 plus 1/3? Well, 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3. We know that's the same as a whole. So it's equal.